Hey everyone. Okay, welcome back to the Daily Healing Journal, and today we're going to talk about generational cycles. This is a fun one. So, I don't know about you, but as you get older, you start to see things about yourself that maybe you notice your parents did, or your siblings did, or somebody that you looked up to did, something you saw on TV. For me, I started to notice that I was repeating certain things that I was not interested in repeating. So I had to hold myself accountable and look deep into myself and my past and figure out what it was that I could connect so that I could disconnect it and get it out of my journey. This is not easy. Breaking generational cycles is nearly impossible if you don't have the right tools. We all have the right tools within us, but it's about learning what they are and putting them to active use. So when I started to notice that my future was flashing before my eyes, and it kind of looked a lot like something that was a little familiar, and it wasn't necessarily something that I wanted to repeat, I had to put myself in check. I started to have flashbacks. I started to have flashbacks from my childhood, and it struck me so harshly that I stopped everything and reevaluated my life, reevaluated the people in it, and reevaluated everything that I was doing based on my value system. I'm always going to bring it back to that, because if you bring everything back to your values, that's when you know if your emotions are in alignment with what's true. And then that's when you know, based on your values, what actions to take to make the change that you want to live the life that you want to live. But you have to hold yourself accountable. You will not be able to break generational cycles if you can't hold yourself accountable. This is why most narcissistic personalities cannot evolve. They continue to repeat the same cycle. Have you ever noticed that the person that has the anger management issues and the addiction issues, unless they completely change their operating system based on core values, they're going to stay the same. They're going to repeat the same cycles over and 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 over again. That's not fun. There's no point in living a life that's already been lived, right? Let's do it differently. That's how we got here. Do you think that our brains were this evolved? Like, suddenly? This happens over time, because over time, our experiences change our DNA. Our emotions change our DNA. When you are trying to conceive a child, the latest studies say that the sperm is actually impacted by the personality traits, the habits, the diet, the emotions, and the mental state that person is in when all those swimmers are in there. And those little swimmers are in there for 2 months before they come out. So whatever that person is doing, feeling, saying is also impacting that sperm. By the time the sperm meets the egg, that egg gets to decide, does that work for me or not? Is it healthy or not? And if that egg doesn't think so, you won't conceive. Now, if it does, and there's a pregnancy, the state that the woman is in while they're holding this baby will impact the DNA of this child. Look it up. This is real stuff. This is why it's so important for us to be aware of our emotions. It's so important for us to be aware of who we're being, what we're putting into our bodies, and what cycles we're repeating, because you have the ability to give yourself a better life, and you have the ability to impact generations to come and give that gift back to humanity, even if you don't reproduce. And I won't go down that rabbit hole right now, but it's true. So have you ever caught yourself just repeating these patterns like, ooh, my dad used to do that, I don't think I should do that. Or, ooh, that's funny, my mom does that, right? All these little isms. Okay, some of them are innocent and fun. Some of them are very dangerous. I started to notice patterns in the people that, not that I was around like this, but the people that were closest to me, not all of them, but certain relationships had patterns. And those patterns were repeating things that I grew up around. I had a great childhood, and I love my family. Nobody's perfect, okay? But we all have these things, and I don't have a desire to repeat certain cycles. So I'm putting a stop to it, and it's one of the hardest things that I've ever done. And if you choose to do this, you're going to feel the same way, but I promise that it is so empowering. And from my perspective, in my experience, it is the most freeing thing to own who you are, even if it means that you're owning someone else's mistakes that maybe happened before you were around. That's the first step. You have to hold yourself accountable. Why? Because if you don't, nobody else can do that for you. This is why narcissistic personalities struggle to evolve. This is why narcissistic personalities and addicts, they continue these cycles. Have you ever noticed that? And then they just, if they don't get help or they don't evolve, they just end up alone, lonely, grouchy, crusty. Like, serious, this is what happens. And then they've wasted their life. Why would you do that? It's hot. So the first step is becoming aware. So you have to recognize these patterns that you're repeating, right? And then you have to reprogram. So the shifting beliefs, habits, and emotional responses are going to be the toolbox guidance system that you have to pay attention to. And again, this goes back to the cognitive behavioral therapy based on values. So if your values are grounded, all these generational cycle things won't matter. They won't matter, but they matter right now if you haven't done the work. They're dictating everything. They're dictating your personality. It's dictating your future. Why wouldn't you want to grab a hold of this, learn it, and change? You can't wait for society or the news or anything else for that matter to do it for you. You have to do it yourself. And if you do, it's very freeing. Suddenly the world isn't so scary. Suddenly your relationships are better. Suddenly you just feel better and you kind of are like, wait, what is this? That's what it is. You're evolving into a better version of yourself. And the only way to do this is to hack your own personality, hack your past a little bit. It might be a little bit painful, but you can do it. You know why? Because that was then. And the reason that you still feel it is because you haven't taken it out of your brain. Your DNA is still listening to that. You can reprogram and reshift your DNA right now by doing this. It will help you in your life and it will help future generations to come, even if you don't reproduce. But we won't go into that right now. Creative expression and healing is really important. And hang with me here. If you're not a creative person, yes, you are. We are all here to create. We're all creators. Okay. But I know how you're thinking of it. So let's just use this example of music. I like to make music and I also like to listen to it. And if you're a musician or maybe you're not, maybe you just like to listen to it, just remember that what you're listening to and what you're consuming is dictating that next cycle. So if you're watching all these war movies and you're listening to this angry music and, you know, you're just throwing back the booze and you're just like, screw it, I'm going to be a rebel. Well, you're going to get more of that and you're going to keep doing that. Okay? I know some very, very valuable people who tossed their life away and tossed the good in their life away because they chose that cycle. And why did they choose that cycle? Because it was a generational cycle. Maybe not from their parents, but it was from somewhere. And that is that thought process in this computer. This thing, this brain is a computer. And you have to unwire the old operating system. Why do you think our cell phones have a new system update like every week? Because it can only keep up with so much, and it has bug fixes, and it's constantly trying to update itself so that it can evolve into the next phone or into the next operating system so that it's easier on us. Why aren't we doing the same thing? Just saying. So for me, walking was a big part of this, just walking and walking and walking. And I realize not everybody has the time to walk, walk, and walk, but find an activity that sort of lets your mind loose and then allow yourself to go into your body and feel your body. Feel it. Trauma will live and hide in your body. And I know that there's all this social media crap out there that everybody's like, these little videos about you trauma in your body, blah, blah, blah. Listen, I know, but it is real. So don't let those cheesy videos scare you away. Just do the work. Just do the work. You won't regret it. So if you are able to break these generational cycles, and after looking at the patterns, so if you're able to do it, you're going to be so free. It's going to be so great. So let's just say there's abuse, maybe, or alcoholism, or even something like overspending, okay? Any addictive behavior, doesn't matter what it is. For me, it was spiraling. I was spiraling when I was triggered by people who scared me. These relationships are not in my friendships. These relationships were in the closest relationships that I could have, and I couldn't figure out why. I'm like, these aren't bad people, but these behaviors are bad, and they don't work for me. But I kept making excuses for them and myself. It goes back to that denial phase, which I did in my last video, and it impacts everything. So I'm going to encourage you to reflect, okay? It is not easy. It's kind of like one of those things where you're like, I don't want to get out of bed right now and jump in an ice bath. And even though I know the benefits of it, and I know with time it'll get easier, but that's kind of what this is. And you just have to sort of give yourself the chance to do this. And the younger you are, the sooner you do it, the better. I wish that I had the guidance to do this before now, but I didn't. And this is my journey. So notice the patterns, right, in your life that you want to break, because there will be patterns you want to keep. Just remember that any pattern that you keep is not evolution. It's not growth. So I'm all for the family traditions and all that stuff, okay? But be mindful of what those things are. And are they helping lift you up? Are they helping you become a better version of yourself? Don't become the same exact version as somebody else. I've never understood that. It's like, why would you encourage your kid to be just like you? Nah. And why would you want to be just like someone else? It's okay to take some of their positives, but this is your life, okay? So act like it. I want to invite you guys to make any comments below about your experience in breaking generational cycles. It is something that is so hard to do, and if you have any tips for any other viewers, put them in the comments below, because this is something that's unique for everybody. Everybody's experience is going to be different, and you have to hold yourself accountable for it. It doesn't mean that you have to do it the way someone else did it. It doesn't mean that it has to make total sense to you just yet. But share your experiences with other people. That's what I'm doing here, because I was inspired to do this for myself after seeing the growth and having such respect for people who had the guts to put it out there. This doesn't mean that you have to share, but if you would like to, please do in the comments below. You are not your past. Neither are your parents, neither are your grandparents, completely. But you are a little bit, okay? And that's when just those little things where you feel throughout the day, why did I do that? Or why is this making me so upset? And this is really common in people who haven't done their self-exploration journey. This is really common in people who are confused. They can't understand why certain things are pissing them off, or why are certain things just really easy for them, or why do they play music? Okay, it's all epigenetics. So these experiences that you're even down to your ancestors had are in your body. And what's in your body is in your mind. And what's in your mind needs to go back into your heart. And if you have that cycle mixed up in the wrong way, you're going to mess your life up. There's just there's no good end to that. And you have this power, so use it. So the trauma and breaking these cycles, let's say that there's a long list of things that hurt. That's most likely due to experiences that we've had, okay? And if we didn't have them, somebody did that we are related to. That's just how it works. And we're able to change this, change it. I saw myself repeating cycles that do not align with my core values. And I had to make some really hard decisions. I had to have some really hard conversations, and I didn't get to have certain conversations that I thought were needed. I had to navigate this with my core belief of what my values are that align with the life that I want to live and how I want to feel. And sometimes that means that you don't get to have these conversations with other people. It's a conversation that you have to have with yourself. So the emotions and the trauma and the habits can be passed down through DNA expression, okay? So whether someone fought in a war or someone was abused, that is in your DNA until you decide to take it out. It's going to be there, and it's going to be there for future generations. So why don't you do yourself and future generations a favor and rewire yourself? It's fun once you get the hang of it. It's not so fun in the beginning. So I'll go into this more another time, but if you start to notice things and you're like, yeah, I don't think that's something I want to do, and you have to completely realign yourself and completely redesign your life, it's okay. And I know that it can seem overwhelming. I know from experience. And I also know that there were cycles that were happening that I was being blamed for. And instead of pointing the finger, remember, blame, how many fingers? One pointed at the person that they're blaming, but there's 3 pointed back at them. So instead of blaming, I'm just accepting these things that I cannot change, by the way. They're in the past. I can't change them, but I can change the future, which means acknowledging the things and accepting the things that I can't change, finding the courage to change the things I can. And then you get to the wisdom to know the difference. Okay, so this is something that is so impactful. I hope that this has helped you. Go out there and just sit with yourself. Give yourself 5 minutes a day to unwire your old operating system in this computer attached to your body and rewire and reprogram a new one so that you can enjoy your life and enjoy being with yourself, okay? I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.